You know, when we look back at the earliest years of Islam, there is something most people don't quite realize, or perhaps prefer not to think about that. And this is the fact that the Prophet Muhammad himself and every and each of the four rightly guided caliphs, so-called Khulafa al-Rashidin, who followed him, starting with Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali, all met violent or suspicious death within the very early periods or short periods of time. The Prophet Muhammad himself is believed to have been poisoned. Abu Bakr died under very unclear circumstances. Omar was assassinated. Uthman was murdered by rebels, and Ali, the figure veneered in Shiite Islam as an imam, was struck down by a zealot person in Kufa by sport. Now, if you think about that historically, it tells us something very profoundly. What we call Islam as a spiritual revelation, the faith brought by Prophet Muhammad effectively reached its theological completion with his death. What followed was not the religion per se, as he lived and taught it, but rather the political and ideological system that emerged from it and from its matrix out. And this is not merely my interpretation. It's a view echoed by some of the most distinguished scholars in the Arab and Islamic wars and within the intellectual circles of Islamic theology. I'm not talking about the Christian or Western professors or specialists of Islamic thought and idea. And so they argue that what survived after the Prophet Muhammad passing was not Islam per se, not the revelation, but Islam as dominion, a civilization, if you would like, a political mechanism, and eventually an ideology that would expand, evolve, and in many ways diverge from its prophetic origins. So, when we use the word Islam today, we need to be careful what we do mean. Are we speaking of the original Semitic faith that centered on spiritual unity, ethics, and revelation, or we do just refer to the very vast ideological and political structure that grew out of it in centuries that followed? And this is a very crucial question because the moment the Prophet Muhammad died, revelation ended. And this is all, with all other religions the case. What remained was interpretation, power, power structures, and expansion. And that's a very different story. So perhaps the real question isn't what Islam teaches, but what it became, and whether somewhere along the way the message of faith was replaced by the machinery of empire.